All right, team. Hey, I have Jesse Breck on the line with us this morning. Jesse is going to talk about how MyCreditGuy can assist us and our clients, and of course, how they can show us how to put that client in the best position possible to be able to qualify, within 4 to 6 months. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Jesse. And Jesse, you should be the co-host on this thing.
Okay.
If not, you are now. So you should be able to share your presentation.
Cool.
And I'm going to go on mute, and I may come in, interject from time to time.
Yeah, please do.
Questions.
Well, Wendell, thanks for having me. And I'm excited to know that we're going to be putting this in front of a team because, most of my time right now is spent with either a team or even at the corporate level, just a standard process of how the MyCreditGuy way, partner with loan officers, and even the ability to pull a real estate agent in that's a partner is what is creating a big difference in the results, right? Like that's really our goal here, is to say, do we have an incubator for these clients that have challenges with credit so that they have the education and the direction to make the changes that they need to in order to improve that credit score? We can check the box to say yes. Do we have the team behind them that understands the financing options that are available for them when they reach those goals? Yes, we can stake claim with that and that relationship. And then if we pull a real estate partner in, really like that is what's making the difference in that final result, and not just improves credit, not just sent back to a loan officer to say, hey, we did our job, but truly a funded loan, right? That's our goal here, which is really what makes MyCreditGuy different, right? And I don't want to turn this into a big, long presentation, but I think it is important for you and your team to understand a little bit about who we are. So when MyCreditGuy was started 8 years ago, it was my husband and wife, Sam and Trisha Parker. They're co-owners of the business, and they'd been in credit repair for quite some time in this space, and they wanted to do things differently. So when they set out to start the business, their objective was, let's not just be a credit repair company. Let's have this goal and this desire to help more Americans become homeowners, and let's do that through loan officers. Okay, let's partner with them to be a bolt-on service to say, how can I help you close more loans? So over the course of the last 8 years, everything that we've done, our entire being has been driven on how do we really help advance any partner that we have in their opportunity in their local community. So we've built systems, right? And I'm going to show you some of that. We've really leveraged tech to allow for us to have a very seamless process, a successful process with our clients, but then also from the loan officer perspective in that user experience. So a couple general things about how we're different than other credit repair companies is really that's at the forefront, right? Like our goal is mortgage score improvement, getting prepared for a home loan, which means we got to prep that credit file a lot of times just to make sure that we understand kind of what's going to happen with the underwriting process, right? Disputes have to be removed. If we're going for a federal loan, a lot of times we have to satisfy any other federal derogatories that we have on there. We understand that process. We understand that if it's a collection, you have to potentially include that in DTI, and a charge off, it's not the case, right? So like we're just built different to allow for that process to go clear, concise, smooth. You talked a little bit about like what's the process like getting them back to us, right? So I'm going to show you a little bit of the system and talk just more details about like what that client experiences in that average of 4 to 6 months. But really when it comes down to it, when it's time for us to get them back to you, it's very simple. We go back to old school. We pick up the phone and we say, hey, Wendell, we've got this person where we think they're there, right? Like we're looking at scores that are going to be a little bit different than what you pull from FICO, the models 2, 4, and 5 for a mortgage. But we want to re-engage you at that point, which we'd probably given you a heads up a month before. Hey, these people are getting close, like things are going well. And then once we see that next review, we're like, man, I think we're going to cross, or we have crossed that finish line. We re-engage the loan officer to get approval, to repull credit. Sometimes if it's been a while, you got to have them go through that application process again, which is totally fine. And then we just confirm, right? Are they above that 640 number that we need to get to? And then we hand that back to, we graduate them from our program. We do continue to follow up just to ensure that the loan goes through, right? Or whatever the case may be, because again, that's the goal. But we really get back to like simple basics of educating the customer. Hey, this is exciting. This is the time that we go back to Wendell, have them repull credit. Let's see where we're at so we can move forward. So that's really the whole, like in a nutshell, the process, right? But what I want to do is I'm going to share my screen and show you a little bit of the tech side of it that I want all of your loan officers to feel comfortable with. So when we get them signed up to use our service, this is the the software tech side of it, right? So this is a referral portal. This is actually Window Seal that we recently set up. And you're not seeing it yet because this is fresh, but what you can expect is that in the future, when you refer a client to us, if they're active and they've signed a contract, they're going to be located here, right? Like all their details and information will be here. What's the score they need? When did we create this file? How do we get a hold of them? And what's the status, right? Like where are they at in the process? If you were to see a client here, you could actually click on that name and see that client's referral portal. When they go into their referral portal, they're going to see a picture of their credit coach, all the contact information of the team member on our side that's been assigned to that file as the individual. That's their number one person. That's the captain of credit repair as the coach in that situation. They're going to see the loan officer that's assigned. And if you happen to have a real estate partner that you've pulled into the mix on this, they're also going to see their contact information. Everything that we do throughout our entire process is to edify who we feel is the leader in the situation, which is the loan officer, right? Like you're the leader of the full process. We're just taking care of credit repair. We want to edify who you are and why you're important in this process so that in that 4 to 6 months, as they improve credit, they're going to start to get people to knock on their door, right? There's triggers out there that say, hey, this person just went above 600. You might want to call them. I'm sure that you're dealing with trigger leads right now. When you pull a hard inquiry, there's crazy stories out there where people are getting 40 to 50 calls a day. We want to make sure throughout that entire process, they know this is home base, right? I've got Jesse as a credit coach. I've got Wendell as my loan officer, and then I might have real estate agents assigned to it so that once I cross that finish line, that's my team. They've taken claim at that relationship. We're going to keep it that way. When you originally send them over to us, they're going to be considered a lead. And that's when our sales team is pursuing them to start with the initial thing, which is the only thing I really want you to hook them into, which is a full credit review, right? If somebody finds out they can't get a house because of credit, they may know that they have issues with credit, but I can almost guarantee that they don't know the details about why they're below that 580, that 620, whatever it may be. They might have an idea on some collections from the past, but almost every single time that I've went through a credit review with somebody that's had challenges, there's things that one, they didn't know about, and two, which is more important, they don't understand. Right? So that's where we kind of separate ourselves from anybody else. And we say, listen, here's what we're going to do, right? This is the game plan. This is how we're going to prioritize this debt. We're going to spend, our goal really is to spend the least amount of money of their money as we can to get them to that qualified state so that we can send them back to you.
Let me ask you this. So what about I was looking at the credit builder card, the videos, I was looking at that type of stuff up top.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are examples of different resources that we provide at no cost to what you would be considered as a referral partner. Okay. So I think the easiest way to explain it is that anything credit, right? I want you to use our team as if we're right down the hall in another office. I'm your credit guy, right? And that means marketing support. That means like credit builder card, for example. That credit builder card is for people that have it's one of two things. It's not that they have bad credit, but they just don't have credit, right? Like they need to get 2 secured cards, credit builder card reports quick, all 3 bureaus, only $200 for a deposit. We love it, right? Number 2 would be and this is happening a lot more lately, but there's a lot of folks that have done well for themselves, right? They've paid off their cars, they've paid off the mortgage that they had, and they closed out all their credit cards. Well, guess what? Nothing's active, so they're not producing a credit score. In those situations, we can move even quicker with Credit Builder Card. Sometimes in 3 weeks, we can have qualifying scores, very good qualifying scores, because what it's doing is it's just reactivating all those closed, at least it's hooking into those closed accounts to awaken that algorithm and produce scores.
So with that being said, I know some people have talked about, I can buy a trade line and all this kind of stuff. So, which I know that's a bunch of hoopla, you know what I mean? And everything. So this would be a better way to go. And then of course, it's not as risky.
No, yeah, you're completely mitigating your risk. And the thing that's a concern, like you can probably get, and I'm just talking totally transparent here. First and foremost, we all need to know that what's happening there is nothing short of fraud, right? What you're doing is you're buying access to a trade line that you're getting added as an authorized user for somebody that you have no relationship with, right? You're spoofing the system. Okay, so now that we're past that, and we know that that's generally not a good idea, and also very costly. I mean, I've talked to people that have spent $2,000 to $5,000 to get that, and it's like, no, we can make a lot more happen with a lot less money, right? It's just poor direction. And even further, when the credit scores change in the next couple of years, right? Like we're going to move to the FICO 10T, we're going to move to the Vantage 4.0, and we can do a little training session with your team on that, right? But mortgages are going to be under different scoring algorithms where authorized users are going to be worth almost nothing in the future, right? So that whole thing is going to completely go away because there's no value. Now, with that being said, and legalities aside, you could probably benefit from getting a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 trade line if you wanted to get another large trade line for a credit card. Okay, I get it. In the way of the mortgage, it's not the same, because you could potentially go through that underwriting process and they kick that back to say, hey, on this $10,000 Amex, right? It shows it's been open for 10 years. It's less than 10% utilized. What's the relationship associated with that person? And if you go through that process and you can't prove that they live in the same home or that you share financial responsibility, they're going to kick that thing back, right? So from a mortgage perspective, it's just not good to ever like direct somebody, and even further, I would say steer them away from those purchased trade lines. I mean, the credit builder card really does everything that they'll need it to for $400, right? 2 cards, $200 a piece. They might have to wait a little bit time, but I mean, I guess that's why it's so important for us to get this message out in front of as many people as possible, as soon as possible, because timing is of the essence. The last subject that you talked about was videos, and I'm going to open that because I want you to see it. But for us, all the content that we produce as it relates to credit education is available to you at no cost. Like, we're letting you download this, and if you want to go in and do an intro, the reason we're doing that is because why should you have to recreate all of what we've already done, right? Like, the content's super valuable. Just use ours, right? And so what a lot of people are doing with this is that they're doing like retargeting campaigns. If you've done a really good job of maintaining your database of clients that you've been in touch with in the past, this is great education to drip to them on a weekly or monthly basis. And then obviously social media is so huge right now. This is great content. And this is one of the points, right? Like, instead of just sharing our content, because it could be easy for you to follow us and just hitch on to what we're doing. The thing is, the social media algorithms, they do not favor just sharing content as much as they do that original organic content. So that's why we're allowing for you to download it and create your own post. You can tag us in that stuff, right, to pull us in to answer questions, but we really like the value of you being able to originate that from your system, because it performs much better. So about everything you could think of in the way of credit. Sam's our CEO. You'll see me in a couple of videos here. Trisha, his wife, just talking about all the things that you can expect. Like, this is the one, we put this at the top for a reason. Quit freaking out about your loan officer pulling credit, right? Like, we've got people with 550 credit scores that are screaming and yelling about, I don't want another inquiry. It's like, listen, the 3 to 6 points that this is going to cost you is not why. Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like, when I talk to people, they're like, oh, are you going to steal my information? They got $5,000 in the bank. I don't think about taking my money out of my bank. I'm like, look, your banks are FDI insured up to $250,000. I'm sure you can get your $5,000 back.
Yeah, right. I mean, Wendell, here's the thing, man, is the older I get, like, that's usually just an indication to where that's one opportunity where that person's probably not qualified to, like, be spending time with them. You know what I mean? Like, because in a performer's position, right? Like our time is everything. How we prioritize it, who we're spending time with, how we're advancing them through the process. So I can understand the skepticism, but if they can't take like a third party to say, hey, everything's cool, and then move off of that and move forward, then maybe we shouldn't be spending that much time with them. And I think that these videos provide a layer of that education and direction that should be helpful in those situations. Because as I'm sure that in credit, I'm sure it's the same with what you do. You tend to answer the same kind of bundle of questions over and over again. So for us, it also just means efficiency, right? Like you can kick this email over to them and say, hey, check this out real quick. If you got questions, let me know. But we really need to move forward on this application process.
Yep, no doubt.
So the last thing that I want to show in the way of, and I'll get you some details on infographics too, because that's kind of the same thing, but it's a static graphic instead of a video, right? When we can co-brand it with each one of your team members' information. Same thing, right? Like push it out in your email campaign, drop it into social media. What we want to do is we're trying to bring these folks to the forefront, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that so I'll say this first. Bad credit does not mean bad person, right? Number one. But what usually comes with those blemishes of credit is a little bit of a shame. And what we're trying to do is say, like, push that aside, right? Like push that aside, come forward. Let's help fix those issues so that you could advance and move forward and break through that, right? And so the content definitely helps to get people to at least raise their hand, right? When it comes time to refer somebody to us, each one of your team members is going to have a spot here to refer a customer, okay? So as you would expect, name, contact information. If they're a veteran, we roll out the red carpet, give them a discount. There's some specifics about the VA loan that if you're using that is also important for us to understand. If you've got somebody that feels more comfortable speaking Spanish, we have a team that supports that, right? We're going to route that in the right direction. We want to get you to give us a breakdown of the minimum score that you need to move forward on a pre-approval. Now, that might not mean that as we get close to that point that you don't need another 20 points because there's a pricing adjustment, and to get the deal done, we're going to move forward, right? But like this would be, hey guys, when they're about at that 620 mark, get me engaged. Let's repull credit. And if we need to push that thing up another 17, 12 points or whatever to 640, we could advance at that point. But that's like, let's get the team back together around this time. One other thing that I like to point out here is review credit with the client is going to be 95% of what you send to us, right? You've already told the client, hey, your next call is going to come from MyCreditGuy. I'm not saying that you have to sign up with them, but take that phone call, do that credit review, right? They're going to help you kind of balance where you're at. And if you choose to pay them to do the heavy lifting, that's completely up to you. But it is absolutely in your benefit to take that call to go through that review. That's going to be most of them. Now, if you're in a situation where you've pulled credit and you're either close or there's something in there you haven't seen before, or you want to talk to us before we get the client engaged, all you need to do is select review credit with me. And that means somebody like me or somebody on our team is going to call you and go through that report with you before we get the client engaged. And then, like I mentioned before, if there's a realtor partner that has sent this opportunity to you and you want to keep them up to date with what's happening, they're going to get the same type of milestone updates that you're getting, which is like, hey, we've connected with them. We've presented the service. They've signed a contract. Month 1 review, month 2 review, right? Like all that progressive updates, they'll be included on that. And then if you have a credit report, you can securely add it here and then just put the notes in, right? Like we like details. Customers got 6 months left in their lease and then they want to buy a house, whatever the case may be. Tell us the story so that we understand how to take care of them just the same. Now, if you don't have a report, completely fine, right? If through that conversation with the way that credit reports have went up from a pricing standpoint, there's no sense in you spending money to find out something you already know, right? If they're saying I've got issues with credit, send them to us. We'll get them access to a credit monitoring service that'll give us a full tri-merge. It's going to be on the Vantage scoring model, so the scores will be off a little bit. That's just kind of how it works, because to get access to the mortgage scores, we're talking $40, $50, and a lot of people aren't going to want to pay that. But that'll tell us essentially like our baseline at that point for credit monitoring scores, and we can move forward. Now, if in the rare situation that somebody says that they have challenging credit, but we're looking at something that looks a lot better than maybe we would normally see, we're totally fine with kicking that back to say, hey, Wendell, you know what? This looks a lot better than I would expect. Maybe you should pull to see what those mortgage scores look like, because there's no sense in enrolling them in credit repair when they already might be at a 620 to move forward. They just thought they had worse credit than they did. Once you click submit here, that rolls into our system. Within 1 to 2 hours, it's assigned to somebody on our team, and we're calling and then updating you from that point. There's about 8 people on our team right now that are fielding all the inquiries that come in to do a full credit review with the clients, kind of educate them on how we can help and what should be next steps.
Yeah. Now, how often do updates go out?
Well, when you first send the lead over, you're going to get quite a bit, right? Because like we're pursuing them, and it gets tricky, right? Like sometimes you'll drop a digits off on the phone number. If we don't hear from them for the first 2 calls, we'll say, hey, could you double check the phone number? Or could you reach out to them to say, hey, this number's calling, whatever the case may be. Like, we're really old school in the way of like, I mean, we're going to hit the phones hard to get them engaged, right? Like, we're assuming they want this and they want this call. So until they tell us to stop. And I'm not saying that we're super aggressive as far as like a telemarketer, but like, we're going to ensure that there's no stone unturned as far as just making sure that we're in touch. Now, we're going to let you know when we contact them. We're going to let you know what the game plan is, that we've sent a contract, received a contract. And then that first month, there's 3 touch points. There's a welcome call from the coach that they're assigned to, and you'll be aware of who that is as well. There's a 21-day check-in to just say, hey, like, we put some tasks in front of you. We've got a couple more weeks before the disputes and the results come back so we can do your review. We're checking in just to make sure you're still on course. And then every 30 to 40 days, probably usually around that 35-day point, because we have to give the bureaus 30 days to investigate, then we do a full review. You'll be copied on that on the email. And then anytime that you want to engage from that point, that's the part, really. It just depends on the loan officer, right? I got some loan officers that every month they get that review, they follow up with a phone call with their client to review it, to say, here's what we've done so far, great job, whatever the case may be. And I have some people that are like, listen, I don't want to talk to them until they're at a 680, right? Like, it just depends on how you want to operate your business.
Yeah. And then what's the cost for this, Jeff?
All right, so let me share my screen again here, because it really depends on the situation, right? If somebody's just got 1 to 2 items to deal with, it's going to be a lower cost than what you see, and we'll talk with them about that on that review. Let me do this here, share again. Can you see this breakdown here?
Yep.
Okay. So the standard, this is for somebody that's going to be in and out like less than 3 months. Usually they like to take care of the big chunk on the front end. $325 on the 30th day. We don't charge any upfront fees. We go send disputes, put a game plan together, do a welcome call, do a 21-day follow-up, and get the results back before we ever actually bill the client. But that first charge at day 30 is $325. And then every month after that, it goes in cycles of 30-day period, right? So 30, 60, 90, 120 is $100 a month thereafter.
Okay.
If they go to our budget plan, like, let's say that somebody's definitely going to be in the program 3-4+ months, they usually select to split that up, right? So it's the same cost over 3 to 4 months, but we do $175 that goes the first, 30, 60, 90, and then $100 a month after that. And then what you see to the right here is for couples. So we give a little discount. We only add on $200 to that initial. And then over here, we only add $100 on, and then it just bumps $50 a month from there.
So So just looking at it, so it's $325. We look at the single pricing option. So it's $325 for, basically going to start the plan. So in June 16th, that's when I get billed that $325.
Correct.
And then after that, it's $100 per month after that.
Yep.
Okay.
And let's say you go 4 months, the total cost in that situation is $625.
Okay.
For 4 months of service.
Okay. Okay. And what makes you guys different from, let's say, Lexington Law, someone like that?
Are you talking about the big one that just got sued for $3.2 billion? That one?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just that, right? Like the crux of that whole lawsuit were deceptive practices, right? They were over promising and under delivering. If somebody comes to our program and they're on their last $325, we're not taking that $325. We're saying, hey, here's your plan. You need to save in the next few months to be prepared to come into this program, right? I think it has everything to do with us being people driven rather than system driven. And really what our mission is at MyCreditGuy, and that's to get as many people in homes as possible. Right. So now fundamentally, so that's kind of like the people piece behind it, like who we are. But fundamentally, how we're different is that Lexington Law doesn't have like a credit coach you can call. Right. Like there's nobody that's going to be your leader in that situation. With us, we send out custom disputes if needed. Right. We look and prioritize that situation with those debts. We're doing an interview to understand, is this identity theft or is this something that you forgot about, whatever the case may be. Right. And then after you go 1, 2, 3 rounds, if things have been verified, the other thing that we're doing, again, this is just fundamentally how we're different, is that if we have a collection that's sitting out there that's $1,200 and it's been verified for a couple rounds, it doesn't matter how many disputes you send or what you say in those for the next 4 to 6 months, it's still going to get verified. You're still going to be held accountable, responsible, and it's still going to be on your credit report. So we have to pivot at that point. And then what we'll do is we'll send you to our debt settlement team to make that phone call for you to help negotiate that thing down as aggressive as we can to get a pay for deletion on that account.
Okay. All right, cool. And then in order to, is there like a general email for, for questions or anything like that? Or do we just go to, come to you or who?
Yeah.
Do we have any questions?
So it'll be me, right? So my responsibility is kind of be your account executive, so to speak, right? And anything that comes up that you need, I'm not saying, just with the way that we've scaled our business, I can't promise that I'm always going to be the one that answers the question, but I'll make sure it gets to the right person type thing, right? Just with how we've grown. But I will say that in the two categories where I tell all my relationships, my LOs, where I specifically want to be involved in, is if you have like a high level referral partner of your own, right? Like a realtor partner that you're wanting to get engaged. Either they have challenges with credit and they don't like to talk about it, right? But they want to get it handled. Let's keep that close. Me, you, and them, let's have that conversation together. And then family, right? Like if you have a family member, like usually I'll do that initial review to kind of give the game plan so that we keep it close. Other than that, it's usually going to my team to do the review or answer the question or whatever the case may be. And then specifically on your referral partners, like if you're working to attract them right now, use the relationship that you have with us to differentiate yourself, right? Like I've spent a bunch of time doing like first-time homebuyer seminars that are virtual, right? Where we're coming in, we're saying, here's the things here's the 5 myths about credit, right? And I can take 15 to 20 minutes to be a part of that presentation, or even just helping those licensed real estate agents to understand more on how to handle that conversation. Use that as your leverage to say, I've got a guy, right? I've got a guy come in, could do a quick 30-minute training session for your team so that they not only better understand credit, but they better understand how to manage that communication when they're out in the field so that we are truly capturing that opportunity as best as possible. That right there, I think, is probably what I talk about is the number one difference between us and other credit repair companies. Like my job is to help you close more loans through those resources and those opportunities.
So Jay, let me ask you this. So now sometimes the seminars are on late Friday evenings, and then of course on Saturdays or sometimes on Sundays. So you're saying that you would be able to jump on for about 30 minutes to kind of help us with that.
Yep. And you know how it goes, right? You show me love, I'll show you love, right? Like, okay. And I mean, and what the last one that I did, I've done 2 recently. I actually flew to Florida to do one, and there was 50 real estate agents that were there. I mean, he's been my guy for like 3 years, right? So it's a little different relationship. But like I did a Friday afternoon one, late Friday afternoon. It was on the East Coast, so it was a little earlier my time because I'm in Central Time. Yep. But she had 45 people there, right? Like, and there was probably 4 customers that we got from that. And then we had 2 people, right, that thought that their credit was not as good as what it needed to be, that actually turned into people we repulled credit that week, and they ended up funding a loan like within 30 days, right? So like I'm committed, I'm there, and those opportunities do draw in people to like take those next steps to say, where are we really at, right? So Sundays get tricky for me, right? but for sure Friday, Saturday, I like to get out a little bit. I travel a bunch. Like we're just getting into that season where I've got trade shows and all that stuff coming up. But yes, yeah, that we want to be that for you, right? If you can get a crowd together, we absolutely want to be that representation of what credit is within your operation.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything I'm doing now is pretty much going to be virtual, so I'm not looking for you to flying anywhere, anything like that.
All good. Yeah.
Yes,
for sure.
So, yeah, everything is going to be virtual, so I'm looking to create that virtual experience. I think that's kind of where we are now. Even if I held a live situation, I still would bring you in virtually.
Yeah,
just to do.
I do that a lot too.
Yeah. So
that's one of the things that COVID did for us, right? Like I mean, as a producer, like I actually love going virtual because, I mean, like you can meet with so many people. I mean, this is a good situation. We're recording this right now, and it's going to be in front of a group, right?
Yeah.
But I've got presentations prepared for all that, right? Where I can send it to you and we can build in some stuff for you or me, or you can do yours and then I can drop mine in or whatever the case may be and kind of do what we did. But those work really, really well.
Okay. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do as I start putting these on the calendar, I'll reach out to you. You know, it may get you on for like 10 minutes or so. I mean, you can actually present it from your phone. Just send me the presentation, and whomever's running the presentation, they can, you know what I mean? Even if you driving down the road, you pull over and you can do a quick 10-minute presentation.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I like about being virtual. You know, you can be there without having to actually be there. So,
yeah. And what's funny is that that kind of candid, hey, just stopped on the side of the road. Like people, they love that, right? Like, cause it's just showing that like we're totally real people. They respond to that really well. It's wild how I've had to get a little less professional in how I present virtually. I mean, like today I'm in the office at one of our buildings with some of our coaches here. But yeah, I'd love to do that. And there's some other things, right? Like this can all advance. Like I can get you a custom link so that if somebody maybe doesn't raise their hand or say something, but they click the link because they're kind of that shy type and they say, I do want to review, it'll come to us. We'll notify you that it came through so you can add it to your database and we can, right? So there's all this connections that could be made.
Yeah. So what I would say is work on that, and I'll be working on a seminar and everything as well. And so of course we'll go from there.
I like it.
Okay.
And then next steps for your team, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a quick little email kind of with the little recap on resources and whatnot, but I just want them to email me because all I need to get them set up is like their email signature, right? Like their title, their NMLS, right? All that stuff. And I can have them set up with a portal before the end of the day.
Cool. That works.
All right, man.
Hey,
thanks for having me.
Hey, same here, man. And I'll be talking to you soon, Jay.
Okay. That sounds good, man.
All right, man.
All right. Later.